Welcome back. My name's Andrews. Today's video, I'm going to be talking about my ideas about a combat update. The main idea about my idea is that there are new structures that you go out in the world and find new recipes to new types of weapons. In the structures, there are new types of enemies as well. My idea has 6 different types of weapons and different recipes that you can find to be able to craft those weapons. There are swords, axes, maces, polearms, explosives and ranged weapons, and magic. My 4th sword idea would be a 2-handed sword. 2-handed swords are slow, they have extra damage, but they also take up the shield slot as well, so they cannot be used for... so you cannot use a shield while you use a 2-handed sword. Here I have a 1.5 sword, which if you don't know the actual name for that sword, I'm not going to say it. But it's pretty much you could be able to switch between the 1-handed sword and a 2-handed sword at will. Next up we have the dagger or short sword. It would be a very fast sword, but it also would deal less damage, but you could also dual wield with it, and it has a throwing potential. Next sword is the rapier. It uses thin iron ingots to make, which would be 3 nuggets in a row like this to make a thin iron ingot. The rapier is fast, it deals the normal amount of damage, and it has pierce damage only. My last sword idea would be the katana, and it requires folded iron ingots to make, and this is the recipe for the folded iron ingots. Katana is fast, it has extra damage, but it is also very hard to make or find out in the structures. I may have forgot to mention that there should be added in different types of damage added in, so a sword would do slashing and piercing damage, while an axe would do bludgeoning and slashing damage. And a mace would do bludgeoning damage and sometimes piercing damage. Next up is axes. My idea for the first idea for axes is a throwing axe. My next axe idea is a double-headed axe. It is slow, but it deals extra damage than a normal axe would do. My next idea is a long axe, which is pretty much an axe on a pole, which means like it's 2-handed. However, it has extra reach, but it probably is slow. And then my last idea would be the best weapon to find in the axe tree would be a war axe. It's just like the normal axe, except it deals extra damage. Now it's time to move on to the maces. To be able to craft a mace, you would have to be able to make a mace head. And to make a mace head, you have to use 4 nuggets around an iron ingot to make a mace head. The main idea about maces is that they deal bludgeoning damage and that they're really good against armored opponents. My next idea for the mace tree is a hammer. The hammer would have extra damage, but it is slower than the mace. My next idea would be the warhammer. It deals extra damage than the hammer would. My last idea for the maces would be a morning star. To be able to make it, you would have to make a morning star head. And to make a morning star head, you would have to have 4 mace heads with 4 ingots or nuggets with an iron block to be able to make a morning star head. And it'd be a very useful weapon because it has multiple separate types of damages like piercing and bludgeoning. And it also has would have a decent amount of damage. Next weapon up is the quarterstaff for the polearm tree. And it's just 3 sticks to make it. Its main idea is that it has reach, but it does not deal a whole lot of damage because it's just a long stick. But it would also be able to craft magic staves for the magic tree. Every recipe going forward for the polearms will be using the quarterstaff as a base. And the next idea is a spear. It deals a normal amount of damage, but just with extra reach. And then my next idea is a glaive. It is just like the spear, except it deals slashing damage. My next idea is the halberd. It'd be pretty much like the long axe, except it has all 3 separate types of damages. Because traditionally, in medieval times, a halberd would have a spear on the top, an axe head, and a hammer on the other side of the axe. My next idea is the sword staff. It's pretty much just an extended sword with extra reach. My next idea, it's the lance. It deals a low amount of damage, however, the faster you go, the more damage it deals. Could you imagine people in Minecraft flying around with elytras trying to lance each other? And the lance would also have a recharge, a really slow recharge because it's really heavy. My next polearm idea would be the war scythe. It is not just a weapon, but it can harvest multiple crops all at once. It has slashing and piercing. Or just piercing. My last idea for the polearms is a long spear. It is just like a spear, except it is a 2-handed weapon and you cannot use a shield with it. It has extra reach than the normal reach. Now we're in the explosives tree. The explosive cheese would be primarily dropped by pirates on boats. So my first idea is a bomb. It's just like TNT, except it takes less gunpowder and iron to make, and it does not damage blocks. It only damages entities. My next idea is the multi-bomb. It's a whole bunch of strings and 4 bombs put together. My next idea is the flintlock pistol. It would take iron nuggets and gunpowder to shoot, so it has 2 separate ammo types that have to both be used up. My next idea is the musket. It would take the flintlock pistol to make, and it also has a sword on the end, or a short dagger or sword. Its idea is that it can shoot farther and also has a melee attack. My last idea is a stationary cannon. It cannot be moved after it is placed. It can shoot both types of bombs and also TNT. And to make it shoot farther, you put more gunpowder in. However, would be a chance of it exploding on you if you use too much gunpowder or if you use TNT. The last section of weapons would be magic weapons. These would be found in wizard towers, dropped by wizards. You got fire charge in the base game, and I think there should be more charges, like an ice charge or a lightning charge, or possibly even a radiant charge that deals damage to unholy things. It deals holy damage to undead things like skeletons and zombies. Then I also think there should be a poison charge and a necrotic charge, which is exactly the opposite of a radiant charge. It heals the undead and deals damage to the living. And my next idea after that would be staves of all of the charges that we saw before. And these ones you would have to defeat like an expert or a master wizard to be able to get the recipe for, and then it would have a low number of uses after that because a fire charge only has 1 use, so it could have like 10 or 20 uses, or maybe even 64. Okay, now I'm moving on to structures. The first structure idea I had was the wizard tower, where you can find wizards who drop charges. You could tell what type of wizard it is by the color of the roof, and you cannot find staves. Staves can only be dropped from recipes dropped from wizard mini-bosses. And then the next structure I think should be added is overworld castles. There's a large amount of enemies, including 0 to 2 mini-bosses. The mini-bosses have a chance to drop a recipe book for new weapons, and you can tell the difficulty of the castle based on how many towers it has, 0 to 4. And there's a chance to include a wizard tower in one of those towers as well. I think there should be more types of underground dungeons, similar to the overworld castles, but a dungeon underground could include unbreakable or difficult to break blocks to encourage combat and difficulty. Next up we have is pirate boats. Similar idea to the wizard tower, that they only really drop the explosives, as the wizard tower would only drop the magic. Now it's time to go on to the new enemies. If nothing else gets added from any of these ideas, I think they should add in at least 1 enemy, and that's the vampire. I think it fits in very well with the zombies and skeletons already within the game. Anyways, let's go through all the enemies I think that could be added. There's vampires, Vampire's Thrall, which is like a knight for the vampire that protects the vampire. There's armored knights, orcs, goblins, dwarves who are neutral to the player, wizard, master, expert, apprentice, province, and a wizard protector who is like a knight for the wizard who protects the wizard. And then there would be elves who are also neutral to the player, but hostile to the dwarves. You can have a skeleton with a sword, and a villager warrior who is neutral, but will attack if you hurt or harm villagers. Combat dogs, which is just NPC tamed dogs that could kill you. And then there's Pirate Captain, Lieutenant Buccaneer, and a Base Pirate. And 2 of my ideas for mini-bosses are ogres and trolls. And I also think that some of these enemies should be weak to certain types of damages. So like the skeletons, they would be especially weak to bludgeoning and fire damage, while zombies would be weak to slashing and fire damage. However, the enemies should also be resistant to damages, like a skeleton should not be pierced or slashed because they're a skeleton. And a zombie would be weak to bludgeoning because it would still come after you if you broke some of its bones. And here's an idea. I don't know if it should be added or not. That's up for Mojang to decide. But creepers, if they get hit by a bludgeoning while they're trying to explode, it makes them explode immediately. Might not be a good balancing thing to add in, but just an idea. Armored enemies that would be resistant to slash and piercing damage because they're armored, and they'd be weak to bludgeoning. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like. Wait, hold on. Was there an update today?